All right, video is now live. Stand by for audio. Good evening and good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live the Fuel show. So today, I am beyond fired up because I'm bringing back a gentleman who knows how to live the epic life. I met this gentleman almost a year ago. He has been through his own lifestyle transformation. We talked a little bit about it on episode, get this, episode 5. That's how far back we're going, guys. September 2016. He has been rocking it this year, man. He's involved. We're going to talk a lot about this today. He's involved in the podcast movie, The Messengers documentary. You can check it out, themessengersdoc.com. Like I said, he was a guest speaker at the first, well, for me anyway, the first podcast conference I ever went to, MAPCON, outside of Philadelphia. This gentleman's got so much going on. I can't even keep up. So I'm excited to catch up with him today, and you guys can be able to listen in while we do it. So without further ado, welcome back to the show, Niel Guilarte.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy.
Dude, I am stoked. I've been trying to get you back on for actually, I think it's been almost a month. We've been kind of messaging each other.
I'm sorry. That's probably my fault.
Well, y'all are kind of busy. I mean, you only finishing a movie, and then you're traveling all over the place. And then for our listeners, I literally just heard that you were on CBS radio in New York recently.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about.
So let's catch the hell up, man. So
yeah, well, first I feel like Gandalf with the whole epic intro, man. I feel old.
Well, it is one of my buzzwords. So actually, I have not introed if any of my co-hosts by calling them epic. So you may be the first, sir.
I'm going to be recording this then. No, listen, man. So first of all, congratulations. I remember meeting you at MAPCON and you were just getting going, and I was really excited to be on your show because you were so pumped and you had your recorder and you were knocking out interviews left and right. And I remember we meant to talk about the movie and we totally skewed to health and weight loss. I was actually a lot heavier back then, very not in shape. And I remember you motivating the crap out of me.
That's what I do.
Take on a challenge. I think we talked about trying to hit 100-pound weight loss by the next time.
By MAPCON.
And very close to that. So to answer your question, basically in those 10 months when I was there to announce the making of the Messengers. I had just signed on to direct it. And I was just excited to be at MAPCON. And I was really just there to tell podcasters that this movie was coming and that it was going to be made for them. So super honored that, about 10 and a half now, almost 11 months later, the movie is not only just completed, we've just passed the iTunes quality control. So we're super excited that a film by podcasters for podcasters will soon be on iTunes and Amazon. And then if we're blessed enough, Netflix will pick it up. So it's just been, we went to New York City. Danny Pena of Gamertag Radio was able to, their show is on CBS radio on play.it, the website. And they were able to get us a screening in New York City in the Big Apple. It went off like, it was huge. It did so well. And so it's propelled us to whole new heights now. So it's just been, I got to go to NYC, the Dream of Every Filmmaker, to see their movie there with all of the executives and everything. So it was very meaningful and very powerful. And now I'm going to screen it with you. I'm going to be there at MAPCON in Philly. I was just invited to speak, and I'm going to be bringing the film. So even before it goes out, if you can come in September, you can see the film before it hits the market.
Is awesome. And again, guys, that's MAPCON, a.k.a. the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. Don't worry. We have ridiculously epic show notes because I studied John Lee Dumas. So he will be
I love John Lee.
He'll be his embodiment and show notes is literally on my site. So we're going to include all this stuff and you got to hang it, John, with his infamous house in the islands, Puerto Rico. How's he say that? Puerto Rico? I don't know. He always has fun with that.
Yeah, I gave him a nickname. I told him from now on, after we did the interview for the film, I said his new name is #Juan Lee. He's no longer
Juan Lee. I love it. Well, and you know what? And to catch our listeners up, guys, that's way back. We have a lot of new listeners compared to almost a year ago. Yeah. And I'm screen sharing right now for the YouTube feed people too. And I'm showing off one of their graphics because The Messengers is a podcast documentary, right? It's the hashtag we have on here is "This is my message." And I literally did posts like crazy during MAPCON because I was so fired up because I literally launched my show that freaking month. So because I wanted to not just bring on co-hosts like Neil to share his message, but make it a part of my message and everything else out there that's going on, because there's so many different kinds of podcasts out there. Like, Niel, to our listeners, like, why is this such a big deal? What is the energy that you took out of making this movie, man? Because you've met so many podcasters, and without obviously giving away the screening, but like, why should they give a crap?
That's a great question. And I love that you're so blunt about it, because it is true. Why is it so important? Well, I think that everything podcasting is sort of converging in this time right now where people think it's new, and it's actually been around for quite a long time. And then podcasting just picked up some amazing new energy about 2 to 3 years ago, where obviously the John Lees of the world and all these amazing podcasters that have now become sort of who we call the stars of our genre have risen in those 2 to 3 years, or maybe a little bit more than that. But this film talks about everybody from the first person who started just yesterday to Glenn, the Geek of Horse Radio Network, who's actually been podcasting, or Danny Pena for 11 plus years, way before when it was just called internet
radio. Has it
radio.
been 11 years for him already?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, so why is this important? Well, what it does is there is no visual storyline for podcasting. Podcasting is only audio. And this is, I believe, going to be sort of the record of sort of what podcasting is and how to do it and how it inspires people. The stories of these podcasters around the world, from Sean Smith in Guatemala, we went and got him in the middle of the jungle podcasting his missionary work, all the way to Danny Pena in LA, and to Christy Hausler in the Keys. So we went everywhere. And
you guys were, I was following on Instagram, man. Again, guys, you can follow these guys on Instagram too. I'll have everything linked in the show notes, but it's go over their photo history. Like, these guys, I swear to God, you must have so many frequent flyer miles.
Yeah, we did 14 flights total, meaning back and forth in that time. And, there's also a podcast called The Messengers, available right now, hosted by Dave Jackson. We actually commissioned a podcast about the making of the podcast documentary. And that actually shows really true behind the scenes, no holds barred. A lot of the arguments, the fights, when we lost my father-in-law, everything is on there. It was. I do
remember that. I'm sorry again for that.
Oh,
that's
crazy. It's an amazing journey, man. So the importance is just that, guys, there's a movie about you now and what you do. And I think it'll shine a light on podcasting in a way that no one is going to expect. It's an amazing, amazing movie.
Well, I'm fired up too, because there's still, like, even my own fiance, and as of like 2 weeks ago, she was just like, I don't understand why you do it, but if it makes you happy, then I get it. And it's like, because admittedly, even I don't know where it's going to end up. Right. Yeah. It's like, I'm happy to have over 25,000 downloads. Like, other people are like, oh man, you're not even at 100,000 yet. I'm like, who cares, dude? My show's not even a year old. Like,
yeah, no, that's huge.
Actually, I think I'm at 30,000 now, but whatever. Like, I don't even know. Like, I've never monetized it. It's all organic growth. I have regular subscribers. Like, I was so excited to pass like 500 downloads. And then
that, to me, is what makes you a real podcaster, because you're not in it to monetize. You're actually in it to share your story, to provide a new outlet for people. And that, yes, if it grows enough, it will get monetized. It will monetize because people want more of it, and you'll need that monetization to deliver that for them. And I know that's coming for you.
And it's funny, because I talk about that, and I'm like, I've dropped some hints. I'm like, one day, like, I have a couple of companies that I recommend. They don't pay me to advertise, but I went ahead and got a little fancy a few episodes and recorded a little out clip that goes at the end, so I'm actually, and those companies gave me my own discount code, and I got them in my resources page on the website. So it's like, because I'm a marketing guy, like, that's just who I am. It's part of my message. And like, one of them is the Pilly Nut Company, and the other one is Villa Capelli olive oil. They're just food, but they're super, super healthy. So I want people like yourself, for example, to, like, hey, if Scott's talking about it and I put it on my site and I talk about that on my show, I'm serious, man. Like, I'm anal about what I put in my body. I'm not going to talk about a food or an olive oil unless I believe in it and I know it's healthy. And so that's just my first look. I'm trying to over deliver and give before I ever worry about monetization.
Well, listen,
and that's just how I look at it.
If you watch you'll see this in the Messengers. John Lee Dumas, one of the most amazing things that he said, and I won't forget it, just because it was so simple and it hit me in the head like a tornado just hitting me. He said, "How did I get where I am? It's because I delivered free, consistent, and valuable information. I built an audience by being, a resource and just answering pain points, and basically delivering value all for free before he ever did his first ebook or his first coaching. All of this is in the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
But what amazed me was that he didn't start off his interview talking about, oh my God, look at the house that podcasting built and look at all this amazing stuff. The first thing he said was, oh my God, the mistakes, the falls, the journey that got me here is what matters. And so congratulations on 25,000. As a podcast coach, when I help people launch zero to launch, that's a monster number. Imagine a room with 25,000 people sitting in it. And that's the size of your podcast.
That's crazy. I never really thought about it that way.
So when your listeners or podcasters that are just starting, when you're telling me you only have 100 downloads, imagine a room with 100 bodies in it. That's like a small wedding. Yeah. And those people are listening to you every week. You're doing fine. It's really not about the download numbers. It's about the experience and the content that you're putting out in the world. And for you to still be here almost a year later, like on fire. I'm so honored to be back because that just tells me you didn't quit. So congratulations.
There you go. I'm completely transparent. I don't lie about my numbers. That's
go.
That's Mark Asquith's platform. This is podcast websites, my dashboard. That's where I'm at literally right now. And I don't care. Like I don't have consistent, it's not always 100+ day. I've had days where depending on the co-host, I have already had months ago, I had 1,000+ downloads in one day. Now I wish that was every day, but that's because a very famous neurologist doctor who's got a crazy viral following online he shared his episode on my show and it blew up.
Oh, absolutely.
I was like, oh my God, I've never had 1,000 downloads. What is this? It's crazy. So
listen, if it makes you feel better, I have a podcast that just is about to hit August 1st will be 3 years. It's called All Things Post. We talk about everything post-production in the film and industry video. And there's days I get 6 downloads. And then I interviewed the editor of Empire, the TV show, 15 million viewers. And I had about 1,000 something on the day I dropped it. So
see,
it really is not in our control as a podcaster, because sooner or later people will begin to share. My show changed when scripted television editors began to share it, and then I've had them on my show, and I'm here pinching myself through most of the interviews talking to the editor of Supergirl, Preacher, all these shows on television, and I'm just like, and they're telling me they've listened to the show at some part of their day, and I'm over here going, that's in Hollywood. Oh my God,
that's crazy.
Here. So just like you, man, you don't know who's listening. So I'm just happy to be back. 10 months means you are not a quitter, my man. So congratulations.
I told you that day. I was like, dude, you're coming on my show. And I was like, and then you're coming on again later because I'm not going anywhere. All right. I didn't buy all this nice stuff, just for craps and giggles. So
yeah, well, I was happy to hear that you were going to be up there again and possibly speaking as well.
And I am actually speaking. It's only an 8-minute slot. I've never done an 8-minute slot for public speaking. It's going to be weird for me. I got to figure that out.
Hey, just do good because I have the following 8 minutes and then we're screening the film. All right, so don't screw it up for me, buddy. You need to alley-oop me like Shaq or something, right?
Well, if I am right before you, man, I'll do the handoff. Like,
I'll do the same. If I'm before you, you're going to get an awesome Kobe alley-oop, man.
Well, in the end, it's not about us, right? Like whether it's me on the microphone and you on the microphone right now, that's one thing that was inspired by you, by, again, me learning about you guys starting to make the movie, let alone now it's being done. And other podcasters I've listened to, it's like the shows that I've enjoyed the most and that I continue to follow are the ones that are just real, dude. Like,
yeah.
And I'm going to self-promote like me, dude. I'm not here to sell crap. And I mean, yeah, I promote a couple of things because I believe in them, but in the end, it's like, I just want to provide good quality conversational format. I'm not the program scripted Q&A guy, because I feel if I followed some kind of script, then I would be missing valuable information. Like if you and I just met like a week ago and I brought you on the show and all of a sudden you have like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden I dropped like an additional 15 pounds this week. And I'm like, oh, so again, how was that movie? I'm like, whoa, what? You just dropped 15 pounds? Like, what happened, man?
Well, I remember that's what happened. Like we started talking about the movie. The next thing I know, you had me almost in tears about how I was overweight and I needed to eat better.
Well, and you inspired me that day, by the way, because not just because of your life transformation that you were committed to. And believe me, I'm sure you've had struggles this year because since you and I talked, that is not an easy lifestyle, 14 flights and trying to make a movie. I'm sure you've had some really bad days this year of nutrition, workout, exercise, balance.
Hard to keep it consistent, actually.
Yeah. I mean, could you give us an example of one of those crazy days?
There was no running water in Guatemala. I had a week of having no safe water to drink unless they purified it. And so the most basic of things that I had switched to, which was giving up the soda and drinking a lot of water, was something I could not get my hands on. So it was difficult. And then when I did get it, oh my God, and then also when we were traveling, when we were in Puerto Rico and we were all these places, they are feeding me the best of the best wherever we go because they're so excited. Danny Pena's family gave us a 3-course meal. It's hard to stay on a schedule of health and trying to do better when they're literally putting your favorite food. I'm Venezuelan, so come on. But those were
Wait, what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Yeah, food, eating right.
Like what kind of food?
Oh, rice, beans,
Oh,
fried foods, and coffees and Latin sodas and everything I grew up eating, but that I had given up in order to try to be healthier. But at the same time,
that was only 1 week of your life or whatever it was, though. It's not like if you then stayed doing that every single day, then you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it was just tough. Just when we traveled, just the hotels, every midnight snack thing is nothing but Snickers and there's just nothing healthy for you to get in a vending machine. And a lot of the places we stayed were extremely remote, or they were, I even traveled to Haiti to do a second documentary while I was in the middle of shooting this film.
Yeah, I forget what that one was. What were you doing? Were you documenting the trauma to their country from the earthquakes and everything?
Not from the earthquake. A medical doctor wanted to show just sort of how bad things are so she could reopen some clinics because moms are dying on their way down the mountainside. The kid is being born on the side of the road and taken to orphanages.
Oh, dear God.
He wants to create a clinic halfway down that would allow the mothers to make it. And so we wanted to document how bad it is and had to show some of the things that I'm speaking of, which was very difficult to see. So it's been an emotional roller coaster, and your emotions also affect the way you eat and act.
I got like goosebumps and hair standing up on my arm right now.
I've seen, Guatemala was inspiring as far as the poverty, even though it was inspiring though, because the people were so beautiful. Haiti was earth shaking for me. I realized we should never complain ever again.
The past couple of years, they've been through hell. I mean, one earthquake after another, the storms. It's like, man, just give this country a chance to recover.
Yeah, and that's funny you said that. That's what they were, when I was there, the little kids were like, oh my God, that, we were traveling with the mayor of a very small little town named Ranquit. And he took me to a river, and this is just a very brief story because I know we have lots to talk about, but I think this is part of the journey, right? It's part of how it transforms you as a person. So I was basically shooting out the side of the truck, and we're literally on a ridge line. Like if I leaned over 3 more feet, we go over the edge, right? And there's a big river that's drying up. And in the middle of the river was like a dead, looked like a cow or some form of carcass, whatever. And not even 10 feet away is this naked little boy, cleaning his little sister and drinking out of that water. Now imagine what that water is picking up and just going through the body of this animal. And he's literally right on the opposite end of it. And the only reason he's standing there isn't because he has to choose. If he stands there, the water parts there, so he won't get kind of washed down.
Away.
He's too little. He maybe was 4. I mean, he was a very little boy. So he was using it as sort of a place I could stand safely. But all I saw as a new dad, have a 3-year-old driving by, that was, it was heartbreaking. I could tell you that the other cameraman, Willie Harper, that was with me, we had to stop, and as grown men still had a ton of emotion. I literally couldn't record for a little bit. I just had to stop and be like, whoa, like poor little kid. And then you want to help and there's nothing you can do. So it's a lot, man.
I can only imagine. I mean, I've been through, I was doing the firefighting and stuff out west and all that craziness in my life. And yeah, when you get put into those situations where you want to make as much impact as you can, but there's limits, and it's so hard to have to walk away. It's like, okay.
And try videotaping that. And then they're looking at you like, why are you recording me instead of helping me? That's what was in my head. Funny, instead of thinking I'm making a movie, my mind was feeling guilt.
But and again, this is where you guys must have developed some ridiculous level of mental fortitude from that process. Was okay, yeah, I know that's what I'm thinking right now, but you have to keep going back to, this is why we're here.
Right.
Like, you're the messenger, so to speak. Honestly, like we're not talking about audio. You're talking about audio and video. Like you're trying to document this so more people know.
And what was crazy was it was a separate film. So it was like still being a messenger for another project. But still carrying what the messengers was all about, which was telling people stories from around the world so that other people are aware to find their voice and become a content creator so that you can make a difference in the world. And that is the whole point of the movie.
It's interesting because until launching the podcast, I never looked at, I can't stand the news because it's all negative crap, because they gotta publicize the stuff that's going to get ratings. And then I started, because I'm a health nut, I started hating print. because all the magazines are pushing BS and
Right.
people are thinking that like men's health and women's health is going to give them all the right answers. I'm like, no, there's some good stuff, but a lot of it's BS. It's somebody
Right.
paying for marketing. So we're at a level of so much negative content, but you have to respect the fact that there's still good content coming, right? The documentaries like you do, right?
Thank you.
Audio, video, there's still purpose out there, and you guys are helping make an impact. And I respect that so much.
Oh, thanks. And I think you and I have a responsibility. We were talking a little bit earlier about speaking. I look at speaking as an extension of our shows, not you and I getting more FaceTime and followers and feeling important. A lot of people do that. They just want to speak and be seen. And I really have learned from making this film that, God has given me this ability to tell their story, right? I really firmly believe he placed us there to tell the story for whatever reason it is. Transform me in 10 months. I'm literally not the same person you talk to. And when you see me in person, you'll see. And
I can already see it from here, brother. That's why I got the video. I was like, I do this to the YouTube, but I'm like, I haven't seen him. He looks, he looks up a little more.
And that's a part of it. Yeah, I'm down 86 pounds actually.
Boom.
14
that's what I'm talking about.
Number. And but even just spiritually, mentally, the things that I've seen have changed me as a person. And so I look at you and me, and converging again at MAPCON as, first of all, last year you were starting and I was starting a film 2 years after podcasting. So we were both at a new beginning. This year, we're both coming back to speak to people and share with them what we've learned individually, separately, entirely, because we haven't seen each other once in that time.
In 1 year.
And we're both going to converge on the same audience and deliver value to the same audience because we're both podcasting. So I agree with you. We have a responsibility to put out good content, but we also have a responsibility to help other podcasters not be crappy podcasters. We need to tell everybody else how you and I are moving forward, because that's what's going to hopefully inspire a sea of amazing podcasts, and people can start respecting podcasts more because they're not just these goofy shows. They're really powerful content that's individualized, and that's the power of podcasting.
Well, and you know what? While you were just saying that, I decided to bring up your show notes from...
Oh, wow.
That's Power Show Notes. September 12th, 2016 is when I aired your episode. Now, obviously, we recorded that. Well, when's it this year? Like September 8th?
September 8th. It was like a week. It was like a week and a half or so between release.
So you just said you're down 83 pounds?
Mm-hmm. 86.
Okay. Mm-hmm. 86. All right. Now, September of last year, you had lost 82. Now, the number you just gave me is only a 4-pound difference. But what I just talked about was, dude, there's consistency here. You didn't put a ton back on. And you just went through a hellacious year of travel, Haiti documentary, Messengers documentary, poor hotel food, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So this is something that I love to teach people. And I'm using you as an example.
Sure.
This comparison to then to now is exactly what I'm talking about, is that you've at least maintained. You did not go in the negative.
Absolutely. And I lost some. And then, like with the death of my father-in-law and stuff.
You've been through a lot.
All of that stuff got me off of the train. But I plateaued for a little while as well, for like a good 4 to 6 months, where even though I was walking and doing more, and I felt like, and I dropped from a size 48 pant to a 40.
Nice.
But my body, it was weird. I felt like, okay, well, I'm obviously getting smaller, but yet the weight wasn't actually the same because I was gaining a little bit of muscle. So it has been a little bit of everything. But my thing is that I didn't put it back on in the way that I could have very easily. The
biggest thing that you just talked about that I teach people all the time is I hate scales. Now, for somebody like yourself who's going through a massive transformation goal, seeing a number like that once in a while is helpful. But the sooner I can get people to start saying, listen, focus on the measurements of the body, not the scale. Because a 200-pound man with no fitness and no nutrition and maybe he's only 5'10", looks a hell of a lot different than a 5'10", 200-pound CrossFitter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So 2 different body types, 2 different masses, right? It just comes down to what is the lifestyle that has developed each of those. Right. So it takes time. It takes time to do the transformation.
And I sort of, I'm just now getting back on my train. Like we talked about at the very beginning, the movie just wrapped about, let's say 2 months ago, as far as finished, like editing, everything's done. And then I went right into the Haiti one, which I'm actually cutting now, a year after recording it. And so it's just been a challenge. I just started walking with my wife again. And so my life is kind of just getting back to normal. In those 10 months, I think I was home only here and there. And then we were constantly shooting. And even if we were home, we were literally just like shooting locally and getting everything we could from our local podcasters. There literally was no ability to have a consistent, reliable schedule. And that was on top
And how
of
hard was that on your family?
Oh God, no! Don't even get me started on that one.
I know.
And the funny thing is, that's on top of running the business. We launched podcast editing services 2 years now at Podfest. So trying to keep those clients from leaving me because I'm out not giving them quality attention. I'm out making this movie. They're watching me.
And you need the income stream.
Had to outsource a lot of that. And so what ended up happening was made an amazing product, risked losing customer base, outsourced to somebody else. So they did better than I did for those 10 months, but at the same time maintained all of that.
Wow.
And that was through the hellacious things that occurred. And you know what, but on the positive lining side of things, now literally just only in 3 months, 2 months or so of being back, everything's on the up and up, getting back out there. My podcast, I got a new vlog on YouTube. Just look up my name and you'll find it's kind of goofy behind the scenes of my life. And excited, man, to kind of pick up where I left off. I'm dying to get back out there and talk, which is why I'm so excited for Philly. And I'm here with you. So I'm just kind of getting back on the saddle right now.
Well, I mean, so getting back on the mics with me today, like besides what you've already talked about, I mean, what is it that it sounds like you've a few epiphanies that I've already kind of kicked in, but is there anything that's kind of really significant for you today besides what we've already said? It's like, wow, it's not even a year yet.
Yeah, man, so many little things combined into one, right? But I think my biggest epiphany that I had in the past year from having sat with you in person was just really my life-changing moment was in Guatemala. I think I came back as a different human being. I literally came home with an entirely new appreciation on the planet.
Well, that plus Haiti.
Yeah. And then Haiti being right after that, because we went to see John Lee Dumas after that. So it was like a fun trip in Puerto Rico. And then right after that, I got hired to go to Haiti on a separate project. That like put me right back into reality world. And I remember my wife's comment was, wow, babe, you keep getting picked to tell these amazing stories of poverty. And it's almost like you're being picked to deliver this. And that really impacted me. And that's, those have been the projects I've been working on for the past year. So my biggest epiphany though, was just, like I said, is just valuing life more, because once we got back and we went to premiere the movie, I lost my father-in-law very unexpectedly. And he was a very big part of my life. And it was just like I was getting knocked around like a bumper car, man. I literally felt like there was no, when's this going to stop? I was almost waiting for everything to stop so I could get back on the track. So my epiphany was just how truly sensitive I've become to life, man, and how any second things can change, and you can be not here as fast as you are here.
Well, the crazy thing for you is that you went from Guatemala to beautiful Puerto Rico and then back to Haiti. So it's like you went down, then up, then down. And I was like, and then the father thing, and I'm like, man, like, geez, like I guess I can only imagine. You've powerful experiences like this in our lives, and I think for our listeners, they need to really hear this from you and me. It's like, guys, like the stuff that I learned, for example, from wildland firefighting, and like these are those life-changing moments that I don't want the listeners to think, oh, I've never been a firefighter or I've never gone to Haiti, so I don't know what you're talking about. Like, guys, really think about your lives. And these what a lot of people see as negative experiences have helped fortify you and build you to be a stronger person. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is, dude, you're like even more bulletproof of a man now than you ever could have been a year ago, because what you went through would have built people into mass hysteria and depression. Like, it takes a special person to go through that stuff. And the fact that you're up here and speaking positively about it right now just shows me the man you keep building to become even bigger and better than before. So
I appreciate that. And it wasn't, I'm positive now, man, because I have a great support system. You asked about my family. My wife would say, you're getting these amazing experiences. I feel like you're doing them by yourself. And it really was hard, because I'm only telling her how my trip was. She wasn't standing there when I was nervous.
She couldn't experience it with you.
Right. And whether it's good or bad stories I'm telling, she's just hearing a story versus experiencing it with me. But you know what? at the end of the day, what it did was fortify me, make me a better filmmaker, because it made me hypersensitive to more than just my selfish needs in the world. Number two, it made me a better business owner, because when I came home, now I want my business to be attached to and to do something of meaning. Now, that's why The Messengers, when I got back, I put my heart and soul into the editing of that, and I believe it's why it's as good as it is. And then, one of my all-time dreams in life as a filmmaker, I'm originally lived in Cypress, California for a big part of my formative years, was to go back to LA or to New York and my movie be seen in one of those two markets, to stand in New York City and watch the executives of CBS Radio and all these other companies stand there with my partners, who we did this with, only 4 of us, not even a big monster crew, and to be well received and get standing ovations and things like that. It made every one of those experiences so worth it, because I felt like we were winning it, even for the lady in Guatemala that was being interviewed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we won that adoration. Wasn't just me and Chris Kremitzos and Danny Pena. It was like, yo, that one's for that lady who told me, please tell my story so the cavalry will come and help us. That lady won when we won. And that's even though it sounds cliche and a little bit cheesy per se, to me, that's what I was feeling.
Oh man, let the cheese flow, because I'm feeling it right now.
That's what I was feeling standing in New York. Instead of me saying, selfish me, so excited, I'm a filmmaker and I made it, I was like, hey lady, I wish you could stand here with me and see this standing ovation from a crowd you'll never know, but it's your story that's making them stand up right now, not mine. And that's the power of, we're talking about podcasting versus film. It's the power of just being a content creator. Now, would my podcast get the same result? I don't know. But that's why I think that the value of being a podcaster that made a movie about podcasting is why I think that film is going to be a little bit special to podcasters. And I'm dying to show it at MAPCON, because that was my first announcement of it. And to bring it back there, with a big shout out to Joe Pardo for inviting us back, is to show them what I said I would do and deliver that promise for those podcasters too.
Now, I'm totally excited because, like I said, again, compared to a year ago, like I'm going to go ahead and share this right now too on the little video feed here. Like, you did not have this, correct?
Nope. That's brand new.
Yeah. And now I'm trying to remember, but how far along when was this photo taken?
Okay. That was actually about half a year ago. Tascam approached me. That device on the table was being designed. It was a prototype for a podcasting device that would allow people to do sort of a live show, where those 3 buttons would be your commercials or any effects or sounds, explosions, things like that. And so I was honored to be featured on the Tascam homepage for millions of people to see in my studio using their product, because I was honored to be asked to test it, along with a lot of other podcasters. So that's when that picture was taken. It was for their feature, and thanks to Willie Harper for taking that photo. And I want to say about half a year, but it could be a little bit more than that. And excited to still be, using that device. Actually, it's pretty amazing.
And then All Things Post, how old is that show now?
Okay, August 1st, my show will be 3 years. Yeah. And what's funny is I don't have monster number of shows. If you look, I only have 54, and it's because
you've been kind of busy.
Well, I was just on the Podcast Junkies with Harry Duran, and I said, listen, man, my show didn't pod fade. It fell prey to my production schedule. And if you ever listen to my show, I am constantly telling them that I live what I'm talking about on my show. And when I tell you go chase your dreams, so am I. And that's why, excuse that I went 2 weeks without recording a show, but I was in the middle of Haiti, and where I couldn't even upload it if I wanted to. Not to make an excuse, but to show my listeners I'm doing what I'm telling them to do.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because, and I'll bring it back to you and me here on the video, but
absolutely,
what you just talked about, like, I got an email randomly from Michael O'Neill, because I'm on his email list, the solopreneur man himself.
That's my boy.
And he sent out an apology email because Monday's show was missing.
Right.
I didn't even realize it, but because I subscribe to multiple shows and I just cycle it in when I can. But he was one of the first hardcore shows I started listening to way back. Yep. And, a lot of his feedback helped inspire me kicking off this show. That's why I made him episode 001. But anyway, he sent out an apology email because, just like you said, life got in the way. And if anybody knows his story, like, he lost both of his parents years ago.
Yeah.
And last Sunday was Father's Day.
Yeah.
And he set up 2 interviews on a Sunday. And then at the last minute, he realized, like, holy crap, it's Sunday, it's Father's Day. And he just was not in the zone.
Yeah. Understand.
So he ended up not publishing a Monday show. And first of all, I was like, I love the honesty of him, at least actually coming out and saying why he didn't do it. But he didn't have to share that. But I think most people need to understand that a lot of podcasters like me, dude, like I don't get paid to do this. I was like, I got a couple of discount codes now for a couple of food products I love to buy. So yay. And yeah, on my resources page of my site, I can promote a couple of things that I'm doing. But other than that, like it's not the monetization, like you said at the beginning of the show, like it could and will come. That's not what this is about. Like people have lives and we're choosing, like you did, to make a sacrifice to start pushing content out there. And it's been very hard for me to explain that to people who don't understand podcasting, like my own fiance.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more to it because when I've worked with the clients, like I'm currently working with to launch a new podcast called Swipe the Podcast with Polly Bauer. She's one of the elite people in the world of credit. I mean, she sits on the board of Visa and MasterCard. Okay. This lady's business acumen and what she knows surpasses mine by $1 billion. Okay. But podcasting is brand new to her. Okay. And so what I tell her is, Glenn the Geek from the Horse Radio Network taught me this, right? Whatever you promise your audience, it's a contract with your listener. So if you say Mondays at 5, that's what time you need to be there. Now me, and I am no excuse, but I also had an amazing Facebook group that I launched with my show that is more active than the show is actually. I could probably monetize the Facebook group all by itself.
True.
But it's because when I launched, I built with that sort of strategy, right? Have a good podcast that is also supported by providing a community for them to meet and greet and talk when I'm not around. And then I use the rest of social media to keep in touch with them. But I bring them together to the point that now I don't even have to look and they're doing everything in the group that they're supposed to do. They're helping each other. They're inspiring one another. But mine to Glenn the Geek, mine would just be excuses. You're just not being consistent and I respect that. But to me, it's just been like, no, but I also made the first one of the only movies about podcasting. Mm-hmm. I'm also out there coaching other people to launch their podcasts. So if I'm doing their podcast, it's a little tougher to do my podcast.
Well, and that's just a lesson learned that I was teaching a couple of people that I've met through conferences and speaking events. Like they've approached me about just hearing how I do things, because they're thinking about launching a podcast. And they're like, oh, what's your best practices? And I'm like, I'm not even a year old yet.
My best practice, I still show up.
Yeah. It's like, and the one guy, he's like, hey, make sure you send me a bill for your advice today. And I'm like, no. I was like,
and if you had, you just monetized.
I could have. But I was like, no. I was like, yeah, we spent probably 30, 45 minutes. But I was like, dude, I've had him on my show as a co-host and everything else. It's like, dude, don't worry about it, man. Like, get me next time. It's not a big deal because I know that I know more than probably a lot of beginners already, right? I've studied from some very good people. But to your point, like one of my lessons is I've never said what time it comes out. I just say every Monday and Friday and I'm glad I did that. Because when I first launched, I was helping a guy in the UK launch a audio editing, engineering type of business he wanted to do in his part-time. And for the first half of my episodes, he was always doing it. He was there publishing content. He did all my show notes. It was awesome. I was so spoiled. And then he injured his eye and closed his business.
Wow.
So I went from like no audio engineering. I didn't have to do any of that. Like from day one.
Doing it all.
Right? Doing the show notes. It was awesome. I would just log into the back of my website and everything was sitting there for me to review. And back then, this is how much of a jackass I am. I would complain to my girl because I'm like, freaking guy, there's typos and this is missing, that's missing. And I'm like, now I look at it. I'm like, you were a spoiled brat.
Yeah. Now you value it. And what's funny? I still do all my stuff 2-3 years into it. I have an amazing friend, Nick Snap of the Make It Snappy Productivity Show. He has figured out how to outsource down to his email. Okay.
Wow.
He's got virtual assistants that probably clip his mustache, whatever. But, but I don't, I still do everything, which is another, I know, pow to me. It's another reason that I'm not as efficient because I'm also picking up things that I could delegate at this point. Right. I think what's happening with you though is I love that you said it early in the beginning. You said this is all organic, and if I look back at my history as a podcaster, I got a little lucky that I got picked up kind of early and sponsored early, 3 months or so into my show, but then I lost all that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of where you are now, where about almost a year I had to suddenly rethink and revamp. And I think you're going to organically start to pick up the monetization, because not in the sense of I'm out to make money, but because in order for me to continue to provide this value, or as you increase the value, whether it be more shows, more days a week, another show, begin a network, whatever, start doing training, that's going to carry an expense that your listener will help support because they want more from you.
Sure.
And I think that if podcasters are listening, if I hear one more person ask me, how do I monetize at a conference?
Oh my God.
Is you'll know when to monetize when your audience places that demand on you.
Exactly.
When they start to ask, hey, where's the Live Your Fuel book? Hey, where's the Live the Fuel, courses on how to eat right and how to just balance your life? Hey, listen, love that you travel and do that. I'd love to see a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Your listeners, my listeners determine my show. They can literally tell you right now by name who told me to talk about what topic, because I'm on my Facebook group religiously saying, what do you want me to talk about? What are your points?
And you're hitting on powerful, easy business and marketing tips, because I tell people the same thing, like, dude, build the audience. And then here's the biggest mistake that not even podcasters, dude, like years ago when I was the analyst with T-Mobile, right? Big cell phone company. I was a business analyst for them. And I worked in their methods and procedures teams. And they're like, hey, we're thinking about launching this, and this. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what does the employees think? They're like, what do you mean the employees? I'm like, the thousands of people that man your call centers, your captive audience that has the finger on the pulse of customer service with your consumers, they would focus on focus groups to the consumer.
Right.
I'm like, why are you spending the money? Just pull a couple people off the phone and do internal focus groups. So that was my team. Like we unlocked that chapter, and it was like light bulbs going off. It's like you just talked to me about here, like, dude, build the audience and then let them tell you what they want.
Yeah, I think I think your show is on the way. I think when you get to MAPCON, it's a year later and you've gone from I'm starting a podcast to I'm speaking and educating podcasters. And the minute you do that, the minute you stand, if you haven't already done it, I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, that moment you just went up a notch in podcasting, because now they are seeking and looking at you as an expert to some degree, because why are you up there? And it's a responsibility so much bigger than just, I got a great little 8-minute speaking gig, because I have the same 8 minutes. We have 8 minutes to blow their minds and go home and have them want to follow your show, follow you on Twitter, because they want more of that inspiration, whatever you provide them. And I've heard you talk. So even that night, that first night that even when we stopped recording and you and me just started talking about life and living the fuel and what that meant, I left so pumped. I was like, this guy made me want to go like sky jump or something. And then I started a 10-month.
You're welcome to join me anytime. I love skydiving.
Yeah. Yeah. But and then that took on a 10-month project that took me around the States, LA, Philly, all over the place. And a little tiny piece of that probably stuck with me, right? That motivation to live life, man. Fuel
and
it.
I also promised you, I was like, and you didn't actually have to take advantage of it, but I said, listen, like, dude, I'm in your corner, man. Like I told you, like if something ever got crazy, you need some advice, it's like, reach out to me. So, and that still stands, because eventually you reach a point where you can't do that for everybody.
Of course.
But in the end, I've learned from so many mentors out there and all these powerful people, like, oh God, Virgin, Sir Richard Branson, all those guys. And it's like, I think the most powerful leaders, or whatever, mentors, coaches, etc., are the ones that do their best to try and still remain approachable.
Oh yeah.
And still be human.
Every day. Mm-hmm.
And when this movie comes out, dude, each and every one of you on that core team in the podcasting world alone is going to move you guys up a notch. So it's going to influence anything and everything you guys got going, whether it be your podcast or your new YouTube channel, whatever. And it's exciting because I want to see that happen.
Yeah. We've seen a little bit of that happen.
And how many new podcasters are going to get inspired from that?
That's the goal, is to inspire them to find their voice. And, in New York, Chris Kremitzos, he's been the guy who started all this. And I remember when we went to Miami, I'm sorry, not New York. We went to premiere this in Miami with Danny Pena in his hometown. Shout out to Gamer Tag Radio and Gamer Tag Nation. I've never had to sign an autograph on anything other than a little DJ CD I made when I was a kid. And standing there and looking up and seeing a line of people we made a 40-page book about the making of the film. And they were looking at that before seeing the movie. Seeing people buy the film and asking us to sign it is as little and insignificant as that might
It's
seem,
weird, right?
I didn't even feel worthy. But then in New York, when we were doing it, I felt honored. I felt confident and proud to sign it. A little different. In Miami, I felt humbled. Like, who am I to sign this? I mean, I'm honored to do it, but thank you for buying it and supporting us, and God bless you. In New York, I was like, yes, I am the proud director, editor, and partial shooter of this movie, and I'm honored to sign your movie. And I hope you hang it on a wall somewhere, and that somebody becomes a podcaster because you showed it to them. That a whole different confidence. And that confidence came from going through all the things we went through and having gratitude. And then when I got to New York, what I had was straight up the fuel, like to kind of bump on your name, was gratitude. I was just so damn grateful that we have come so far, and now we're standing in New York at CBS Radio, man. I had to pinch myself 90 times, and it's gratitude.
Well, what you're talking about is kind of like a huge underlying principle under everything that you and I are doing and what we're talking about right now. Like, and I'm sharing the screen for the video people, but it's like, dude, again, the messengers, it's a podcasting documentary, but like the hashtag, this is my message.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to really define that. And that's what you're talking about right now. And like the whole fuel for the fire and fueling everything you're doing. Like, why do you think I chose that word? Yeah. I've spelled it out as fired up epic life, right? Live the fuel, live the fired up epic life. There's an acronym there. But if you dug all the way to the base, like the wood and the kindling fueling that white blue hot fire that's in my logo. That's why those two colors were chosen, right? Burning freaking so hot that it's white hot. Absolutely. And because what you just said, if anybody listening to this show realizes that about life, it's like, guys, if you just take a few minutes to slow down, and we're all guilty of this. I have to catch myself. You have to catch yourself. But when you take that moment to reflect and be thankful and grateful and embrace the gratitude of all these little things that are going right in your life, it's like, whoa, there's a shift.
And let me tell you, the blessing that you talked about of us having increased visibility and opportunity, that has already begun to happen, and I'm very honored and grateful for it. However, I've had to take on some new habits. Like, this is not a plug. I don't get paid, but shout out to the Calm app. Okay. Like meditation in the most basic forms. I don't meditate, but I literally one day, when we got back, the workload picked up again, and people don't like to let you sit in gratitude and appreciate what you've been through. You get about a day of that, and then your phone starts busy, and now they want you back on the grind. And I remember one night I was feeling a little.
You hear this?
Yeah. Is that it?
That's the Calm app.
Well, funny story about Calm, and Calm, feel free to give me and my boy a shout out. Basically, one night, it was shortly after I lost my father-in-law, Monse, and I was editing, and I was kind of tearing up a little bit, just a little emotional, nothing all dramatic. I was just feeling a little, I had a moment to process it basically while I was finishing some projects up, and I was just feeling a lot of tension. I haven't had an anxiety attack since 2001 or 2, where I had one in my life. It scared the hell out of me. So I started feeling a lot of tension, and just, even though I was feeling emotional, but it got worse than that. It started to become stress, responsibility for a lot of things. And I just started to get really like tense. Out of nowhere, I just look up on my phone, breathing, I think it was breathing exercise or something. Calm comes up. I did one of their little freebie ones, and it calmed me down so much. I did like a 10-second breathing thing, and it works so well that now that's what I do whenever I feel like I have a few moments, and I try to do the Calm app and just kind of bring myself centered again, and realize that I control that amount of stress by how much I'm allowing in.
Well, and I'm glad you're sharing that transparency, because what you're talking about is not rocket science, guys. Like, to our listeners, like that app I literally have on my phone, because that's why I brought that up. I wanted to add that in because I just thought that was hilarious that you and I have one of the same tools. And do I use it all the time? No. I even have another app here called Free Healing. And again, these are free pieces of technology. The app world is so powerful. So it's like,
it texts
if you can use technology to power change. And it took, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your life?
Yeah, but you know what? It really calmed me down, and I was experiencing some serious stress. And my dad one time said, "When is your what was the word he used? When is your self? Oh goodness! awareness button, I guess, per se. Like, that's not the word he used, but when you're getting ready to explode, when does that button kick in that tells you I need help, start looking for help,
Yeah.
get up?
Well, it's almost like in that, are you in a fight or flight state, for example? Yeah.
And I recognize that after having such a great, success with all the projects, not dealing with my life stuff caught up in one night. It found me calm. And I just want to share this with listeners because I've been on a lot of podcasts where people are like, oh my God, the movie this and the movie that. And I'm like, yeah, it felt awesome. But let me tell you about a night when I was in my edit bay, stressing out, trying to be responsible for everyone else and having to deal with my own sorrows, my own griefs, my own issues, all in one moment that it took advantage of that it saw my body calm and my body attacked me. And in that moment, I could only do one or two things. I could either just go into a panic attack and hurt my body, or I reached out to the technology and found something to calm myself down, which then allowed me to think right. And since then, you know what? I started walking. I started talking to my wife on the weekends a little bit more and letting out some things that I was holding back just because it's businessy. But now I realize I need her. I need her, a little bit of her as a sounding board.
Well, and it's not just a guy thing. You ladies out there too, like some of us guys are more guilty of it because we're sometimes just a bunch of jackasses. We think we're bulletproof and we just got to deal with it. And then you reach these breaking points and it's like, you know what? We do have people in our corner. So just, get a little vulnerable. I mean, that's me and Mr. X firefighter, tough guy. It's like I had to start learning what the hell vulnerability really was in life. And one of the most powerful things that I've gained out of that, especially in this past year or two, and this podcast has actually helped with that. It's, getting my message out there was like I said for years, I would never get engaged. I got engaged 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations, man. I saw the photo.
Yeah. Right. So it's like my buddy, all my closest friends are like, who are you? What did you do with Scott? Yeah. And I was like, only because it wasn't this past year, but it's been a culmination. And I realized like everything else I've done in my life, there was never, I never. That was the only piece of my life. And I've talked to psychologists on the show. I've had all different kinds of people, like 80 some, going on 90 episodes now. And it's like, I realized like, dude, I got a little my own content out of that. I'm a listener too. Like I'm listening to you as my co-host.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about right now is that this is life-changing stuff. And for me, and just like you explained to us, we both reached new levels of finding a way to get more vulnerable and be willing to accept help and support.
Absolutely.
Whether it be from an app or your wife or your kids.
Absolutely. And one, thanks for sharing that. And congratulations. And number two, boy, are you in for trouble. And number two.
Everybody tells me that too.
Number two is, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to release this a little early. You're getting the exclusive. My talk at MAPCON is going to be called Level Up. And it's about sort of sharing the journey and how to take your podcast to the next level, but not just your podcast, you. Because I could talk about how to take your podcast to the next level, but I'm sharing with them, like I just did with your audience, is sort of like my vulnerabilities that have allowed me to level up. And then now that I'm leveled up, because what is the first thing that you do when you level up in a game, right? Let's just say, for example, I shared this on Podcast Junkies. You go Call of Duty and you go and you level up, level 8. Well, the first thing they do is they give you new weapons, new skins for your weapons, you get experience points, and things like that, health points. But the first thing you do, you don't go to the next level and start shooting everybody. The first thing you do is take account of the new guns, the new skins. You reselect, the new weapons. You add your sniper scope. Yep. You set up again. You add your experience points, because without those experience points, you're not going to last in this new level.
Okay.
Right? And you need the previous level's experience points. And finally, your health points. Then you're going like, okay, now I'm going to level up and I got my little health cube and I'm back to full health. Don't we all do that before we go to the next level?
That's
Otherwise,
true.
as soon as you start,
because you don't want to start the new level all blown out. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And that's what I'm sharing here today. I'm trying to share some vulnerabilities that, life as an editor is cool. Yeah, I get to work on movies and music and really great stuff. I get to be involved in some amazing things. And then there's days more than there are good days in this edit bay right here, where it's just Niel. I edit alone 24 hours a day. No one comes in this room but me. And that's a mental challenge. It's a level of fortitude to be an entrepreneur that doesn't have a lot of outside influence unless I'm working on projects. And I birthed out of that a podcast, a Facebook group, a vlog, a this, a that, a film, and still going. So for anyone out there that's listening, that's still sitting on a chair saying, should I podcast? Jesus, get up and do your thing.
Heck, even if it's only once a month. I mean,
just
taking action.
follow Scott and I, man. Just get on the boat and be a content. Find your voice, and that's the point of that. Not just the movie. It's become sort of our mantra, Chris and I, and the rest of the team. It's become now helping people find their voice, and that is the point. Now, are we great stewards and examples? I hope we are, and that's why I was so excited.
I feel you are.
I was here to.
Hey, that's just my opinion. I don't know how much that weighs in, but
it's a lot. You know what's funny is I was more excited to get on your show than some other shows I've been on, because I was like, wow, he's still doing it. I was there when he started, or was just starting, just getting it going, and I've been like looking at myself and you and how we're converging again, and now we're both going to go share and speak. I saw when you promoted that you were going to speak, and I was like, wow, look at that. 1 year later, and we're going to be at the same level for the same amount of minutes.
It's crazy.
So it's not about who's been doing more, and it's not about whether you earn that 8 minutes. It's you and I have been selected by Super Joe Pardo to honor and help his audience that is paying to go to his event. He's trusting you and I. And that's why I was kind of excited to get here.
Since you trusted our audience and me with sharing your discussion topic, I'll give you mine.
Sure, I'm down.
Because you'll get a kick out of this. It's embracing change for lifestyle success.
Boom.
So it's not just about podcasting, dude. Because that's not what this is a medium. This is a platform.
Right.
I talk about health, business, and lifestyle. That's what we've been talking about here. They're all intertwined. But the biggest thing I want to get through to people is you got to embrace the change. Life, that's all life is
so if
change.
I was hearing this show right now, I would sign up now. You're about to get 2 powerhouse talks about how to change your life, leveling up.
There you go. Pat the back. Pat the back.
Joe, you can send that check too.
There you go, Joe. Yeah.
But this is great.
To be fair, I already had pre-bought my ticket at last year's event because that's how I do things. Once I go to a powerful event, I actually make sure I buy the ticket ahead of time if they have it available, because that way I'm already committed. Yeah. All right. Now, all I have to do is keep my word to myself.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, and then Joe's like, "Oh, dude, you want to be a speaker?" Because I came out and I spoke at his new DreamCon event, a couple months ago, and I was honored to speak there. And that's obviously a very new, smaller event compared to MAPCON. And I was like, "Hey, if you want me for MAPCON," I just threw that out there for fun. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead and put a submission in." I'm like, "Oh,
there you go."
Okay.
Hashtag boom. Just Scott and Niel, so you don't want to miss that night.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, you and I joke around about all this stuff. And again, to the listeners, guys, we're geeking out about podcasts. We're geeking out about speaking. But listen, man, you got to step out of your comfort zone, whether it be my topic of embracing change for lifestyle success, whatever. It's like, guys, like, this is what it's about. I already had no problem getting up in front of people and talking to people because I'm a sales and marketing professional. Okay. That's not a consulting business. It's what I do. I spent years doing it. So it's like, but now, like, I was actually nervous launching a podcast and I don't even have to stand in front of anybody. So now I get to merge all those worlds together. Mm-hmm. And I've realized since the podcast, I was like, wow, I actually do eventually want to increase my public speaking because I already have no problem doing it anyway. And it would be nice to eventually monetize that as a future chapter of Live the Fuel. So,
absolutely.
But did I know that back when I launched a podcast? No.
Nope. But that's why it's organic, like you said at the very onset.
You never know.
And that's what's happened to me. If people, I got asked a while ago, how have you monetized your podcast? And my monetization.
Everybody's got a different strategy.
Yeah, it's been through speaking, now coaching, and doing other things. And I think we're doing a marketing cruise again for Tampa Bay business owners here, which is also sort of a podcasting, Florida podcasters thing. It's kind of been a slow grind, and obviously, like you said, the movie is going to finally put it where it's so visible I can't hide it anymore.
Oh, it's so exciting.
but really, and I love it. I love that you're that buddy that I'm going to be able to say he was here that before I even shot it, the day I announced that it was going to begin production. So in a way, you're part of that because it's like, wow, this is a guy I met when it was raw, and now here we are talking about it being completed, and it's only the beginning of who knows where we'll go with the podcasting, and how else we'll serve the podcast community. But listen, man, I love coming on this show because when we talk so like real, like this is no script at all.
There's no filters. There's no script.
All over this conversation.
Yeah, that's the point. I literally love shows where if I can get it to people feel like they're eavesdropping in.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Hope we're interesting, man.
Yeah. That's and you know what? If we're not, then they don't have to listen to the show. Obviously, for your listeners, please subscribe. But anyway, the point is like, which is two people just like our listeners who are connecting or have connected and are reconnecting. Like, it's the basis of humanity. Like, if you meet people, communicate, and that's all we're doing here.
And it's been really great being on here, and I really want to say thank you again, because I was actually really looking forward to it. I really like how we talk, and now I can't wait to see you in person so we can just have a
Dude,
beer.
I'm pumped.
I'm actually bringing up the lady Polly Bauer that I told you about, that I'm actually coaching right now, because I want her to see how powerful MAPCON was last year. It was small but so powerful, and I invited her as a brand new podcaster. I think she'll be barely launched when that comes out.
Awesome. She'll be right where I was.
Yeah, bingo. And I want her to
Boom.
meet you. I told her, I'm going to introduce you to somebody that was sitting in that chair, and I was being interviewed by him, and I'm going on his show in a couple of days. This is now.
Yeah.
And
I
really
told myself I had to launch with at least 5 to 7 episodes.
I remember.
You were episode 5.
Yeah, I feel special.
If I hadn't have gone to that event, I would have slowed my launch.
Yes.
This goes back to take action.
I have to get these interviews because I have to launch.
Well,
and that's why
I recorded Michael O'Neill, you, and Mark Asquith.
Yeah, no pressure. Like monolith guys, and then the chubby kid that made a movie. I love it.
But the best part was, I'm the new kid on the block rolling in with a Zoom H5 and microphones, and I'm like, I'm just getting after it. I don't know what I'm doing, but
that's how to start. Get those guys on your show. If you don't get downloads after that, you just suck.
But it was also just motivational, because I knew Mike was going to be there doing the same thing, and he's like me, man. I'm going to be at an event. I'm bringing the gear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did not see very many other people doing that. A lot of people, hey, if that's fine, you want to hang in your home studio, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you can't beat what you and I had at that event, man. The power and the energy of living in the moment. Yeah. You got to capture that.
And then you get the people who walk out of the conference, and let's say there was an amazing speaker like you or I, that they come out of it and they're so moved, they're so motivated. Let's say they were not going to podcast, or now they are, or forget podcasting. We motivated them to improve their lifestyle. Forget the podcasting part, because like you said, we're both talking about leveling up yourself, and then that affects your podcast. Imagine the interviews you get as people are walking out. It's like going to church, and then right afterwards saying, what do you think? They're going to be moved, and they're going to be motivated. That's great content for your audience, but it's also showing the audience how mobile you are, how you're willing to go out and get them the stories and the content, not just wait till because you're now to the point that you could just email people and get them on your show. The fact that you still
I tweet people.
Yeah.
I listen to somebody else's show. I tweet them like, hey, great episode. I share the episode. And like at least 30 to 40% of them get back to me and accept my invite to the show. And people are like, you need to put a training together on that. I'm like, yeah, here it's real quick. Tweet them.
Well, I think that's a sign, though, man. I mean, I'm trying to use you as an example for maybe people that are just beginning their podcast. What a great example you are of a person that just kind of held it. You haven't fidgeted with your show too much. You haven't like really tried to go crazy and figure it out. You've really been organic. You've been very specific. And now here I am, many episodes later, excuse me, and still enjoying the conversation. So you guys, subscribe and then and keep following this guy, man. And I'm really excited for both of us to be up there. I'm almost now excited for the audience of hopefully what we're going to deliver for them, because I know I'm going to bring it. I'm going to try.
If nothing else, you and I reconnecting today has just secured that commitment to make sure that we do step up. Not just for the audience, but for each other, because we do have a crazy, weird history already less than a year ago.
I know. You're special to me, man.
It's like, I want to give you a hug.
Can I get a Liverpool t-shirt? Damn, man. It's been 10 months.
I'm going to get done with this episode. My girl's in the other room. She's going to be like, what the hell was going on in there? I'm like, it was just bromancing. It's all good, dude.
Yeah,
apparently it's a thing.
I am going to claim my shirt, though, so I can rock it on my vlog and say, I have his t-shirt, damn it. It's been a year. Even if you have to print one for the chubby kid, all right?
Oh, come on. Dude, 80 plus pounds down, man. And I guarantee you, I'm holding this to you. You better rock it for September. And if you have to, you text me, you email me, you FaceTime me. I don't give a crap. I'm happy to guide you to get you to that goal.
Man, so. I am grinding and super excited for September. But I love that kind of close out your audience, just giving them a little, I don't know, I'd say words of advice, because who are you, dude? But I just want to kind of say, there's a lot of people out there that are on the fence about whether or not they not just want a podcast, but whether or not they have a voice in the world, right? There's a lot of people who are in a cubicle right now, and they're just like, hey, I'm tired of working. Is there anything that I have to offer the world? We all do. And I just want to encourage people, whether it's through our film, whether it's through listening to you or my podcast, whether it's just through, your own want to be a better person, get out there, find your voice. We all have something special to share. And there's an active audience for everyone out there who wants to have a podcast or some type of YouTube channel. And I just want to encourage people, because I'm a content creator, and I've seen the benefits of how it's changed my life for the better. how it's made me a better person, a better dad, a better businessman, a better friend. So for everybody out there, please, please at least attempt to find your voice. It's okay to decide you don't want to, but at least try it so you could say you did. And then you're not living an entire life of wondering if you should have. And that's just sort of a thought.
And what I'm bringing up right here is you guys, again, you just heard these powerful words from Niel. So again, we talked about before, like you have so many ways to follow this guy. Go freaking click on All Things Post. Okay. Go check out that podcast. Heck, go check out wildstylemedia.net. That's also his brand. I mean, the guy's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. Are you on Instagram? I know you're on Facebook.
I'm on Instagram as Wildstyle Media.
I was going to say, yeah. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, two different websites, podcasts, a movie, come to MAPCON.
Yeah.
He's made it as easy as possible for us to follow him. So I don't know what else to do. I mean, that's all I'm going to leave. Actually, this is a great way to bring the show to the end. Like, guys, take action, whether you're inspired by my words or Niel's words or past episodes or by listening to his show coming up. Like, guys, this is all we're talking about. It doesn't need to be something that's going to change your life in the next 3 to 6 months or even a year. But if you at least are taking action, you don't know where it's going to take you.
Absolutely. And please engage us in person. Both of us are very approachable. I want to be approached. I don't want to be seen as just a guy in front.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to thank you again for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I'd love to come back in another couple of months. Changing the world even more.
I told you from the beginning, you are always going to be a welcomed returning co-host, especially if something exciting is happening, besides the movie launch or a new YouTube channel or I can't even keep up with you, man. Like you got so much stuff. Like you're gonna have a very robust show notes page. I gotta link everything. There's gonna be so many hyperlinks.
My boy, that's a cool show note. This is my boy. And listen, dude, you're amazing. Continue success to you. And now I'm really excited. I was excited for MAPCON, but now I feel like you and I are gonna really bring it. And I hope we amp each other up to deliver amazingly for Joe, who's opened his doors to you. And
I'm gonna hold you accountable because usually people tell me that they require that of me, and I was like, guess what, dude? I need that too. All right. We all need to feed off of each other. Right?
Absolutely. Man.
You know what? On the point of bringing the show to the end, you already said some powerful words and maybe just want to reiterate that. But if you remember, all of my shows, I give the final word to the co-host. And this is just, if they forget everything else we just talked about, which again, this is digital audio content. All you got to do is hit rewind. But, what is that final, like, it could be an inspirational, motivational message, whatever. Like if they forget everything else you learned today, like, what is it about Niel, man? Like, why should they be, what do you want to leave behind for the audience, man?
Listen, man, black and white down to the point is I just want to inspire people to get up and find their voice. I want to inspire people to pursue a dream. It doesn't have to be one that we or anybody else sells you, just one that you want, from a baker all the way to an astronaut. And if I can just be a little tiny example, if Scott could just be a little example of how to take action and at least get started, there are so many people along the way that will help you to get there. And right now you don't see that because all you see is your cubicle. All you see is stress. You're a single mom. All you see is issue. What you don't see is if I just step out, there's a Niel, there's a Scott, there's a Polly, there's a lot of people that are just waiting to grab me and pull me because they just did it. You just did it a year ago. And I did it 3 years ago. And I think at MAPCON, if you want to really prove yourself and you're within the region of that conference, show up and watch how we yank you in. So my message to everybody is please just find your path and stop following someone else's. And if you can do that, you're going to live a fulfilled life. And that's what I hope I'm leaving for my daughter as she's watching daddy's body of work, and that I'm inspiring my family and my friends. So please, guys, reach out to me. I'm all over Twitter, and I will answer. It's not somebody else, and I will be here to assist you guys. And thank you again for having me on this show. It's becoming one of my favorite shows to come on, and I'm honored, man. Thank you so much.
Dude, I'm honored, man. I appreciate that. And hang tight, I'll give you a proper goodbye here when I stop the recording. So again, to the listeners, guys, dude, I could have asked for, like, he already kind of closed out the show with final words, like through 2 different rounds. So you're going to have to rewind by like 5 minutes a couple times. Just go back and listen to this again. But this is what we're talking about, guys. Be inspired, be motivated. He said it perfectly. Just take action, reach out for help. Okay. There's plenty of us out there to help you. So again, guys, this is what we're all about. We talk about health. We talk about business. We talk about lifestyle. Niel Guilarte is the man and a powerful co-host for you today. So we say it all the time. Keep living the fired up epic life, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. And you're clear of the pod.
Bro, I so love that fired up epic lifeline. That is awesome.
Dude, I literally, you can thank Michael for that. Like, well, awesome. It came from me, but Michael and I but back when I was, he was my first coach. I literally had a wall in my old house. That was before this is 3 years ago now. It's before I even lived with my girl, way before the engagement. And I had a wall of Post-its, and I just started writing down keywords in my life and slapping them up on the wall. And then just tried figuring out how to create a saying or a brand or something out of that. And
you got it.
Let the fuel out. And then of course I Googled it, and nobody had those 3 words together. And I'm like, I'm going to own all that real estate.
Now you do. And I can say, I know the guy that owns that real estate.
Yep. Yeah.
That was a great show. I really enjoyed that talk, man. Thank you.
Good, man. And you over delivered.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it though, because I knew when you and I chatted that night at the hotel, that's why I was looking forward to you coming back, because you honored me by telling me that night that I got you to talk about stuff that you don't normally talk about.
I remember that, yeah.
And that was kind of my aha moment. I'm not kidding you. You were one of my ahas about the podcast. I was like, whoa, he's only in my first 5 episodes, and I got a dude telling me that I got him to talk about stuff he doesn't normally talk about.
Yeah.
Because all the big time podcasters talk about that. They're like, oh yeah, when you get somebody to talk about stuff and go off a script. And I was like, whoa, there could be something here.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So you whether you realized it or not that night, you definitely inspired and motivated me to keep going. And obviously, clearly, I'm still doing it, man. 2 shows a week consistently.
That's what I'm saying, man. Awesome. Congratulations for that, bro.
Yeah. So
it's a challenge, man. It's a marathon, but we're still both in it. I'm actually, excuse me, just now starting to pick up. Mine felt so far behind, but my audience rocks, bro. I came back, and the very first episode was my most downloaded show ever, because I was like, I'm back.
See?
And they were like, just wait. They literally wrote, we were waiting.
That's
so
awesome.
And now I'm just trying to, really come back strong for them. And I've been telling people, hey, I'm going to be on this show and that show, because I want to also draw that attention of the film, the increased visibility to the shows that I'm visiting, because I want them to grow. And I told Polly, I said, Polly, I'm bringing you to MAPCON as my, you're a client, but I want you to meet some of the people that are so pivotal. Do you remember Zach Demopoulos? He was there last year.
Yeah.
Rent. He was my coaching client at that time.
I remember that.
And he kind of quit on me. He's like, it's not you, it's not me. I just, I'm spending, my business is going out of control. I'm not paying enough attention. I got to stop podcasting.
Yeah, but
then he comes to Podfest and he launched. And not only did he launch, he followed all the techniques. I told him, hey, make sure you have a shirt, make sure you have this, all these marketing techniques for him.
So timing wasn't right, but it's like, what if you would have done that when we first talked about that?
But guess what? But then he's since gone to Podfest. He met up with me in New York because he heard we were coming. So he showed up at my New York premiere, and now he's coming to MAPCON again because I said, listen, I'm coming back. And I just wanted to express that as the power of when we coach people, when we help people. Look, man, he's coming back now years later, conference after conference, state to state, following where I've been.
He's in it, man.
And I never know how to repay him for that, because, he's doing it out of his own money.
Yeah.
And what an honor it is for me that I go up to all these different states and I see Zach, and he doesn't like to tell me until he shows up. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing in New York? He's like, I knew you were.
But that's how it was with Island Michael. Like I wasn't paying him, so to speak, anymore, but I knew he was coming to MAPCON. He was my trigger point to come to MAPCON. Like I was on the fence. And then as soon as I got the alert that he was going to be a speaker, because I hadn't seen him in over a year since I was originally a paid coaching client of his and in his coaching group. And he and I met in New York when I was still trying to create Live the Fuel.
Nice.
And that's when I was like, dude, I'm going to go see you speak. I'm going back into your coaching group to help launch the podcast. And I'm not paying him anymore, but I need him when I need him. And that was it. So
it's cool, man.
Same thing, man. When you got those connections, you know who's going to help you get there. Boom.
It's going to be awesome, man. And now I know what you're going to, we're both going to be bringing some serious, not just podcasting talks, but like how to better yourself, which in turn will always better your.
Well, and you know me, man, I'm about the big picture. I'm not, just like you said earlier in the show, I'm not going to sit there like, oh, yeah, I got 30,000 downloads, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, they can go online. I post that occasionally on Instagram. There you go. It's not why I'm going on to speak, right? It's
hopefully he'll put us either near each other or with somebody, a break in the middle, because we're going to hit them kind of hard. They're going to need a water break.
Yeah. Yeah, their minds are gonna be a little bit blown.
They're gonna be like, yeah, they can't go back to back. Please give me somebody that's not.
Oh yeah, we should both email Joe. Like, Joe, listen,
make us the last two.
Could you just figure out which ones are your boring ones, and then he and I will go after the boring ones.
Yeah, or put one in between that's like a really hot blonde or something.
Yeah, but admittedly, I hope, and I'm sure the speaker lineup he's putting together, I'm sure everybody's gonna rock it. Like Teo Roxon last year, man. Yeah, I had him on the podcast.
Yeah,
he's good. So. But yeah, this has been great, sir. I want to make sure you get back to your family. So
yeah, thank you for the talk. And man, this was awesome. Let me know when it's ready. And if you need anything else from me, I'll promote the crap out of it as usual.
Oh yeah, I'm always within 1 to 2 weeks of release. I don't go any longer than that.
I actually do have I meant to mention somebody to you that's on the rise, a dear friend of mine.
Well, the beauty is YouTube will still feed off of this. I throw in extra content here at the end. So this is all going to be on YouTube, but I can also add whatever you want to the show notes.
No, this is just for you. I think there's a guest that I think that would be perfect for your show. His name is Lee Silverstein, and he's got the Colon Cancer podcast, and he just started the Colon Cancer Network.
I just did a charity ride for colon cancer last weekend.
Okay, well, he is a huge success story of 0 to doing very well in podcasting. But more than that, his show, his message is so powerful. I told him when I get back on Live the Fuel, I'm going to let him know. I think you'd be the perfect guest for him as far as, you know, he's got colon cancer. He works out every day, lives a great life, but he's created literally a network of podcasts for people helping save lives. And I told him I will not leave until I mentioned.
I'm looking at him right now. The Colon Cancer Podcast.
He's amazing. He's one of my most humble and beautiful friends, and he's in the movie. And he might be a cool guest to have, you know, that's featured in the film.
I would be honored. I've spent years raising money for cancer. So,
well, I'll let him know. Standalone, he's amazing. Or if you want to just reach out to him at the Colon Concert, Lee, I think it's Lee it's the Colon Concert Podcast at gmail.com. And let him know I told you. I'll let him know I told you. But I think you and him will have an amazing discussion about living the fuel, because if you do me a favor, I'm a big networker. So, and that's the same thing. Like, if there's people you want me to connect with, I do the same thing. I tell all my co-hosts, I'm like, if you have a podcast, I will do as I come across people, I try and help cross-pollinate and network people. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a professional courtesy that we all can step up and do a better job of in the podcasting world. Absolutely. It's like some people struggle to find guests and co-hosts. So I'm like, let's refer people. So, absolutely. And I thought of him immediately because he was in the movie and he made everybody cry. His is the one segment of the movie where everybody cries. And I thought, wow, if he could bring that to this podcast, not the tears, but the story.
Yeah.
Knowing how
I would love to talk to him, because it's only its third year. I just stumbled across it because I'm a huge, athletic guy and I do a lot of biking. And last weekend I did 60 plus miles for colon cancer, and the event's called Tour de Touche. Oh, wow. So I can get him, Tour de Touche, whatever. Anyway, they literally want you to go to the doctor and get a tour of your tush.
You might even be able to connect him with them.
I can, because it's only his third year and they've raised $85,000, and he's a local guy, and I can get him connected.
And now they have him podcasting at the largest cancer conferences in the country. Like he's become the voice of, just like Glenn the Geek and the Horse Radio Network, which will be on his show tomorrow morning. God, I gotta get up early to do horses in the morning with him. But don't ask me why. He asked me. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know about Lee, and I'll connect you guys.
Definitely, I appreciate that. I would honor and respect that networking connection. I'll be honored to bring him on.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. I'll let him know. And I think he would bring true value to your listeners too. I know how you're going to take the way you are, where you'll take that conversation. I won't miss that episode either.
I'll geek out. I know I will.
But thanks, man. And have yourself a blessed night. And congratulations on your engagement. That's an amazing step in your life, man. And I can't wait to hang out and just chill at the bar a little bit and hang out when we see each other.
It'll be good, sir.
All right, man. Take care, brother. Thanks for everything.
Take it easy.
Talk soon.